Have you ever wondered how a simple act of kindness can completely transform someone's destiny? The story of Emma Rodriguez, a young Filipino-American nurse, and Harold Blackstone, a billionaire known for his cruelty, will show you that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. If this story touched your heart, please like so more people can discover this incredible lesson. In the comments, tell us, have you ever had to deal with someone difficult who later turned out to be a special person? Your experiences could inspire other readers. And don't forget to share. Stories like this need to be spread to remind all of us about the importance of empathy and perseverance. A story that will change your perspective on judgment and second chances. Emma Rodriguez adjusted her white uniform one last time before ringing the doorbell of the mansion in Coral Gables, Miami. At 28 years old, this Filipino-American nurse knew this wouldn't be an ordinary job. Harold Blackstone, at 78, was known for firing caregivers within weeks. "You must be the new nurse," said Harold, opening the door with an icy expression. The billionaire real estate mogul had a reputation for being impossible to please. "How long do you think you'll last?" "The last one lasted 2 days." Emma smiled professionally. "I'm here to take care of you for as long as you need me, Mr. Blackstone." "We'll see," Harold grumbled and immediately began testing her. In the first few days, Harold did everything possible to make Emma quit. He deliberately spilled medications on the floor and yelled at her to clean them up. He complained about everything: the food she prepared, the room temperature, how quickly she responded to his calls. "You're slow," he shouted when Emma took 2 minutes to bring his tea. The previous nurse was much more efficient. Emma took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackstone. I'll do better." But she never fought back, never showed irritation, and always treated Harold with dignity, even when he didn't deserve it. In the second week, Harold pretended to have lost his heart medication and accused Emma of stealing it. "Maybe you sold it to buy drugs," he shouted unjustly. Emma, instead of defending herself angrily, said calmly, "I'll search everywhere, Mr. Blackstone. I won't rest until we find it." She spent 3 hours searching until she found the bottle that Harold had deliberately hidden under the bed. "Here it is," she said, handing over the medication with a genuine smile. "I'm so glad we found it." Something changed in Harold's expression at that moment. The cruelty began to diminish. 3 months later, Emma had won Harold over with her infinite patience. The cruel man from the first days had revealed himself to be someone deeply lonely and wounded. The 13,000-square-foot mansion was always too quiet for such a large house. Harold explained that he had been a widower for 10 years and that his family rarely visited him. "You know, Emma," Harold said during dinner, "my family only shows up when they need money. You're the first person in years who treats me like a human being." "You deserve to be treated with care," Emma replied genuinely. "Why do you do this?" Harold asked one night. "Why didn't you quit when I was cruel to you?" Emma thought for a moment. "Because I saw that behind the anger there was pain, and hurting people deserve love, not abandonment." Harold felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope that someone genuinely cared about him. That's when Marcus Blackstone burst into the room. "Grandpa, we need to talk urgently," said the 45-year-old nephew, completely ignoring Emma. "About what?" Harold asked, noticing that Emma was discreetly preparing to leave. "Stay, Emma," Harold ordered. "Marcus, say what you have to say." Marcus looked at Emma with absolute disdain. "It's about this situation. I've hired a suitable nurse to replace her, a real American nurse." "Real American?" Harold repeated dangerously. "Grandpa, be realistic. We can't have an immigrant taking care of you. What will our friends at the club think? We need someone from our class, someone who understands our American values." Emma felt her face burn with humiliation, but Harold stood up slowly, his voice becoming ice cold. "Our American values? You mean the values that teach judging people by skin color and accent? Or are you talking about the values that make you show up here only when you want to borrow money?" "I'm trying to protect you from this opportunist." "Opportunist?" Harold laughed bitterly. "Marcus, In 3 months, Emma hasn't asked me for an extra penny. You, in the last 6 months, have asked me for $50,000 in loans for investments I've never seen returns on. Who's the opportunist here? That's different. I'm family. Emma is family now, too. The difference is she chose to be. You were born obligated. Harold turned to the new nurse Marcus had brought. You can leave. Emma stays. Marcus left furious, but not before whispering to Emma, You don't know who you're messing with, immigrant. That afternoon, Harold called Emma into his office. I want to apologize for my nephew's behavior, and I want you to know that I trust you more than my own family. 6 months later, it was Victoria Blackstone White's turn to make her move. At 38, the socialite had burned through her ex-husband's fortune on compulsive shopping and now faced bankruptcy. Emma, dear, Victoria said with false sweetness when she arrived at the mansion, can we have a little chat between women? They met in the garden while Harold rested. I'll be very clear, Victoria said, pulling a thick envelope from her Hermes bag. Here are $15,000 in cash. That's more than you make in 6 months, I'm sure. Emma looked at the envelope without touching it. What is this for? For you to resign today and tell Grandpa that your mother in your home country is sick and you need to go back to take care of her. Mrs. Victoria, I won't... Don't interrupt me, Victoria said arrogantly. Listen carefully, little girl. You might be useful for cleaning and giving medications, but don't fool yourself into thinking you're part of this family. We are Americans for generations, with lineage that goes back to the founders of this country. You're an immigrant who can barely speak English properly. Emma remained calm. My family has been here for 2 generations, Mrs. Victoria, and I was born in Tampa. It doesn't matter. Your place isn't here. Take the money and disappear before it's too late. I won't abandon Mr. Harold. He needs me. Victoria laughed cruelly. He needs you? Honey, you're a glorified domestic worker. Harold is confused by age. When he dies, and it will be soon, we'll inherit everything, and you'll be on the street without references. If that's how you feel, maybe you should spend more time with him instead of only showing up when you need money. Victoria's face contorted with rage. How dare you speak to me like that? I will destroy you. That night, Victoria gave Harold an ultimatum. Either that immigrant leaves, or we stop visiting forever. Harold looked at the niece who hadn't visited him in a year. Victoria, you just made the worst decision of your life. You don't need to come here anymore. After Victoria left slamming the door, Harold called Emma and asked her to tell him exactly what had happened in the garden. She said I don't speak English properly, Emma murmured with shame. Harold smiled sadly. Emma, you have a nursing degree, speak 3 languages, and have more education than my niece. And more importantly, you have character. Tyler Blackstone, the spoiled 25-year-old grandnephew, was desperate. His gambling debts had reached $75,000 and the loan sharks were losing patience. Uncle Harold, Tyler said during one of his rare visits, we need to have a serious conversation about security. Security? Harold asked. Yes. The whole family is worried that this nurse is planning something against you. Theft, poisoning. These people will do anything for money. Emma, who was taking Harold's blood pressure, felt her hands tremble. These people, Harold repeated dangerously. Come on, Uncle. You know how it is. Immigrants, lower-class people. They see a house like this and only think about how they can take advantage. Harold turned to Emma. Emma, how many times have you asked me for money in these 2 years? Never, Mr. Harold. And you, Tyler? How many times have you asked me for money in the last 2 years? Tyler turned red. That's different. I'm family. Different how? Emma works 12 hours a day taking care of me. You hardly ever show up here, and when you do, it's always asking for money to cover gambling debts. Who's really exploiting me? Uncle Harold, if you don't get rid of her, the whole family will cut ties with you. Harold was silent for a long moment. Then he said calmly, Tyler, you just made the stupidest threat of your life. Get out of my house and don't come back. You'll regret this, Tyler shouted as he left. When that immigrant steals everything, don't come crying to us. When Harold turned 83, the first signs of Alzheimer's appeared. Emma, who worked full-time as his private caregiver, now began sleeping at the mansion to take care of him during the nights as well. Harold had episodes of confusion, but in his lucid moments, he would hold Emma's hand and say, "Thank you for not abandoning me like they did." That's when the family made their most desperate and cruel move. Marcus showed up with legal documents, Victoria with a vengeful expression, and Tyler with 2 men from an ambulance company. "Grandpa needs institutional care," Marcus announced. "We brought the papers for admission." "He's being well cared for here," Emma protested with tears in her eyes. "By you?" Victoria laughed maliciously. "An immigrant without specialized Alzheimer's training? You're putting his life at risk." "You can't do this," Emma said desperately. "We can and we will," Marcus said coldly. "You have no legal rights here. You're not family. You're not a real American. You're just an employee who overstepped her bounds." That's when Harold appeared at the bedroom door, leaning on his walker, but with perfectly lucid eyes. "What's happening in my house?" "Grandpa," Victoria said with false concern, "we came to get you. We're going to take you to a place where you can receive real care with qualified people." Harold looked at Emma, who was visibly devastated, then at the 3 relatives who only showed up when they wanted something. "Real care? In 5 years, you've visited me maybe 15 times. Emma is here every day, every night. She knows each of my medications, each of my quirks, each of my fears. Do you even know what medications I take?" The silence was embarrassing. "Emma," Harold said calmly, "do you want me to go to a nursing home?" Emma was crying openly. I just want you to be safe and happy." "And you 3? Harold turned to the family. "What do you really want?" Again, silence. Harold laughed bitterly. "Get out of my house. Now Emma is my real family. You're just leeches waiting for me to die." "You'll pay for humiliating us like this," Victoria screamed, the mask of false concern finally falling. "When you die, we'll contest anything you leave to that immigrant," Marcus threatened. "Do that," Harold said calmly. "It will be interesting." 2 years later, Harold was dying. Emma, now 33, had dedicated the last 7 years of her life to caring for him. She slept in a bed next to his, woke up several times a night to check on him, and had become his constant companion. "Emma," Harold whispered on his last lucid day, "you gave me the only real family I ever had." "You gave me a home," she replied, holding his frail hand. Harold handed over a sealed letter with trembling hands. "Read this only after the funeral. It's very important. Promise?" "I promise, Grandpa," Emma said, using the affectionate nickname she had started using in recent years. Harold smiled. "My granddaughter of the heart." Harold Blackstone died peacefully that dawn, with Emma holding his hand and whispering words of comfort. Marcus organized a lavish funeral at Riverside Memorial Park, inviting all of Miami's elite. The family appeared dressed in Armani mourning attire, representing grief they were far from feeling. Emma sat in the back of the chapel, wearing a simple black dress, genuinely devastated by the loss. She had lost not just a patient, but the man who had become her grandfather of the heart. "Finally free from that leech," Victoria whispered to Marcus during the ceremony. After the burial, the family approached Emma with malicious smiles. "Well, Emma," Victoria said with false sympathy, "I suppose your easy life is over now. You can go back to your people." 7 years pretending you cared," Tyler added maliciously. "At least we'll inherit everything now." Marcus approached with a cruel smile. "I hope you saved money all these years, because now you'll need it. I doubt Grandpa left more than a few $100s for you. Maybe Grandma's old clothes." Emma didn't respond. Her heart was too broken to fight back. "Don't be sad," Victoria said with venom in her voice. "At least you had a comfortable life these years. Now it's time to return to reality." Attorney Robert Chen's office occupied an entire floor of a skyscraper in Miami's financial district. The family gathered a week after the funeral, barely able to disguise their euphoria. Emma was summoned and sat discreetly in the corner of the room, still wearing the same black dress from the funeral. "Why does she need to be here?" Marcus asked, irritated. "By express and irrevocable request of Mr. Blackstone," Attorney Chen replied with professional neutrality. Victoria rolled her eyes. "Well, I suppose Harold left some crumbs for her. Maybe $500 and Mom's old clothes." Chen opened a leather folder. "I will proceed with the reading of Harold Morrison Blackstone's will." To Marcus, $75,000 and the family photograph from the office desk. To Victoria, $50,000 and the deceased wife's engagement ring. To Tyler, $40,000 and the great-grandfather's pocket watch. To distant cousins, amounts between $10,000 and $25,000. And to Emma Rodriguez. Chen made a dramatically long pause. No specific mention in the direct inheritance section. The room exploded in malicious laughter. 7 years, Marcus guffawed. 7 years taking care of him to receive absolutely nothing. "We tried to warn you several times," Victoria said with venomous satisfaction. "We tried to save you from this humiliation, but you insisted on staying." "Now you understand why we wanted to fire you?" Tyler laughed cruelly. "We were trying to spare you this disappointment." Emma stood up slowly, completely humiliated. Each laugh was like a stab to her already broken heart. "At least now you know what your place always was," Marcus said with cruelty. "Employee, nothing more." Emma walked toward the door, feeling smaller than ever in her life. "Miss Rodriguez," Attorney Chen said calmly, making her stop with her hand on the doorknob, "please don't leave yet. I said there was no mention in the direct inheritance section. I didn't say I was finished." Emma turned slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Actually," Chen continued, "I haven't even begun the main part of the will." The silence in the room became deafening. The family stopped laughing. "There is a separate document," Chen announced, "which Mr. Blackstone instructed me to read only after observing everyone's reactions to the first part." Chen opened a second folder, much thicker. "This document contains what Mr. Blackstone called his discoveries about his family's true character." The blood drained from Victoria's face. "Apparently," Chen continued, "for 7 years, Harold Blackstone secretly documented every interaction with you. He hired private investigators, installed recording systems, and kept detailed records of every conversation." Marcus began to sweat. The amounts I just read were merely what he called an initial reaction test. The real inheritance depended on someone demonstrating genuine love for him, without financial interest. What kind of documentation?" Tyler stammered. Chen began reading the reports. Marcus Blackstone, in 7 years, visited Mr. Harold only 14 times, 12 of them to ask for borrowed money. Attempted to fire Emma Rodriguez 3 times using explicitly racist arguments. Investigation revealed embezzlement of $300,000 from client accounts. Marcus's face turned gray. Victoria Blackstone White. Visited Mr. Harold only 8 times in 7 years, always requesting money. Attempted to bribe Emma Rodriguez with $15,000 to abandon her job. Multiple recordings show prejudiced comments about Emma's ethnic origin. Victoria was visibly trembling. Tyler Blackstone. Visited Mr. Harold only 6 times in 7 years, always asking for money to cover gambling debts. Accused Emma Rodriguez of possible poisoning and theft without any evidence, in an attempt to create distrust. Tyler was breathing heavily, gasping with panic. Every attempt to harm, fire, or humiliate Emma Rodriguez was recorded and documented, Chen continued relentlessly. Mr. Blackstone wrote, "Every attack on Emma was a confession that my family saw my death as a business opportunity, not as a personal loss." Emma was in total shock. Harold had secretly documented everything? Chen turned to Emma, who was still paralyzed by the revelation. "Emma Rodriguez," he announced solemnly, "you were the only person who passed Mr. Blackstone's character test." The room was in absolute silence. "You demonstrated unconditional love, personal sacrifice, and unwavering integrity, even when mistreated and humiliated. For this reason, you inherit the entirety of the Blackstone fortune." Chen read slowly, $125 million in bank accounts and investments. Emma staggered. The Coral Gables mansion and 3 smaller properties, valued together at $55 million. Victoria groaned as if she had been stabbed. Complete portfolio of Blackstone Industries stocks and other companies, valued at $165 million. Marcus turned livid, reality hitting him like a train. Total control of the Blackstone Foundation, with current endowment of $35 million. Tyler collapsed in his chair, his breathing failing. In addition to additional investments in private funds and international properties, $20 million. Total inheritance, $400 million. The silence was broken by the sound of Victoria fainting and hitting the marble floor. This can't be legal," Marcus screamed, his voice failing with desperation. "The will was reviewed by 5 different law firms," Chen replied calmly. 3 independent auditors verified all documents. It is completely legal and uncontestable. Tyler was repeating, $400 million, like a mantra of total despair. "This is impossible," Marcus bellowed. "She's an immigrant, an employee." Emma finally found her voice, still in shock. I just loved him. He was my grandfather of the heart." "And that's exactly why," Chen said gently, "you inherited everything they thought they deserved." Chen continued, the final blow. "There is an additional clause. Due to the documented attempts to harm Emma Rodriguez through racial prejudice and malicious firing attempts, all amounts originally left to the family are revoked. You will receive absolutely nothing." Victoria, now conscious, began crying hysterically. Marcus was pale as a ghost, desperately calculating ways to contest. Tyler seemed to be having a nervous breakdown. 7 years, Emma whispered, still processing. He knew everything from the beginning. Still in total shock, Emma returned to the mansion that was now hers. She sat in Harold's favorite armchair and, with trembling hands, opened the sealed letter he had given her in his final moments. "My dear Emma, my granddaughter of the heart, if you are reading this, then you discovered my secret. Yes, I documented everything from the first day Marcus tried to fire you. You passed all the tests, including those first months when I was deliberately cruel to see if you would stay. You stayed. You loved me when I didn't deserve love. My family showed me that I was just a bank account waiting to be liquidated. You showed me that I was a human being who deserved care. Every cruel word they said about you, every attempt to drive you away from me, every demonstration of prejudice and greed, only confirmed that you were the only person who truly cared about me. For 7 years, I recorded every conversation, documented every visit, registered every request for money from them versus every gesture of affection from you. The difference was striking. They saw me as an obstacle to inheritance. You saw me as a grandfather who deserved love. Use these resources to show the world how true love can transform lives. Create the family I always dreamed of having. Family isn't about DNA or last names. It's about choosing to stay when it would be easier to leave. It's about loving without expecting anything in return. Thank you for giving me the best years of my life. With all my eternal love, your grandfather, Harold. P.S. I hope the expression on their faces when they discovered the truth was worth every penny I spent on private investigators. Emma laughed through her tears, even in her state of total shock. Harold could make her smile even from beyond. Now she understood everything. The man she loved as a grandfather had planned the greatest lesson in justice that Miami had ever seen, and he had chosen her, a simple immigrant nurse, to be the instrument of that justice. Emma opened the Harold Blackstone Memorial Healthcare Center in Little Havana, Miami. The 215,000 square foot complex was the most advanced free geriatric care center in South Florida. She hired 150 professionals and served more than 500 needy elderly people per month. The center offered free medical care, nutritious meals, activity programs, and even assisted living for those most in need. Marcus, Victoria, and Tyler tried to contest the will, but not only did they lose, they were investigated by the FBI due to the evidence Harold had collected. Marcus was imprisoned for embezzlement, Victoria declared complete bankruptcy, and Tyler had to flee the country because of the loan sharks. Every Friday, Emma visited Harold's grave with fresh flowers. "Thank you for teaching me that family is a choice," she whispered to the marble headstone, "and thank you for choosing to do justice." The medical center grew every month. Emma had created a special program to train nurses from disadvantaged communities, offering full scholarships. Many were immigrants like her. "Harold," she said during one of her visits to the cemetery, "I hope you're proud. We're using every penny exactly as you dreamed." And while caring for each elderly person at the center, Emma knew that Harold would be smiling, seeing that his elaborate revenge had transformed into the greatest demonstration of love that Miami had ever known. The story of Emma Rodriguez became legend in the city, proving that sometimes the people we least expect to receive can be exactly those who most deserve, and that underestimating the power of true love and the intelligence of a billionaire determined to do justice can be the biggest mistake anyone can make. $400 million can't buy character, but character can be worth much more than any fortune.